Welcome to Transcendent. I'm Raya, and I'm the daughter.
And I'm Joe, and I'm the dad.
You know, Dad, I remember when I was growing up, you would oftentimes make fun of people that go out drinking, and you would always say, let's go out and drink until we can't see the door.
Yes, I did say that.
We got a lot that we're going to talk about with drinking after this. Dad, I grew up, really, since I can remember, with you not drinking. The only time that I've ever seen you have a drink is at communion.
And that's a very small amount. I can handle it.
A very small amount.
Yeah.
What got you to quit drinking?
Well, let's start with where I started drinking. I had my first drink on my 16th birthday. I never had any alcohol before that. My mother and dad were working one day. It happened to be New Year's Eve, my birthday. And so on my 16th birthday, I knew where they had some liquor, and I took a water glass, not knowing anything about what liquor was, and I filled it full of whatever they had there. It could have been brandy.
It wasn't even beer or wine or something.
No.
You started with
Yeah.
the hardest, something pretty hard.
And I got really drunk on it.
How did you drink it? You were 16 and you think, I would think you would taste it and, I can't drink this.
That's how I felt. But I thought I'd force it down because I wanted to get drunk to see what it was like.
Uh-huh.
Well, after that, I continued drinking mostly beer and wine. But
And of course, back in those days, as soon as you turned 18, then it would have been legal to drink beer.
to drink beer, but not wine. But I had a way to get it anyway. Keep in mind, this is in the 60s. Actually, it was 1960, to be exact. Back then, the liquor stores used to deliver. My parents were working and I was home. So I'd call the liquor store and I order. There were no 12 packs then, there were 6 packs. I'd order a couple of 6 packs of beer. Sometimes I'd order wine. And it would come, and when the kid that was the delivery kid came to the door, I would answer the door, and he'd always ask, is your dad home? No. What about your mother? Oh, she's taking a bath right now. And she gave me the money here, and I'd hand it to him, and nobody ever questioned it.
Wow, it was DoorDash, but just for alcohol.
Yeah,
I've never heard of anything like that.
I think they outlawed that a long time ago. At least they don't do it anyway.
Wow.
So that's how I was able to get alcohol. And then when I was 18, I could drink beer. They had beer bars, and I spent a lot of time there.
Did they ever find out?
No, they never did.
And you were not going out goofing off with kids doing this. You started off right from the beginning drinking alone.
Yes and no. Yes, I did drink alone, but mostly I'd have maybe one friend, a friend from across the street or one of my other friends, and we'd take a 6-pack of beer and finish it off, and, we'd go from there. But that went on for just a little while. By the time I turned 18, I was still drinking pretty often then, always the weekends, Friday night, Saturday night, sometimes during the week. By the time I was in the Army, I was drinking a lot. And that never stopped. When I got out of the Army, I thought, boy, that was a lot of drinking. Until I got into college and played in a rock band. Then it accelerated.
Oh. You always think military, they do a
Yeah.
lot of drinking. That's kind of goes with the territory, but that was just the beginning for you.
That was. I had accelerated to the point where I was drinking daily, and there were times, mostly on weekends, when I would literally go, this is toward the end of the college years and my rock band years. I would go days that were blackouts that I didn't remember.
So what were you doing? You must have, these would be days when you were playing. So you'd go out with the band and you'd play and you'd be drunk the whole time?
No. When I was playing, I wouldn't probably start drinking until the end of the night because I knew that, and I had a rule. I generally didn't want to start drinking. This is in my college days until it got dark. It was just my thing. I didn't want to drink in the daytime because I knew that would spoil everything. But once I got to a certain point in the evening, and a lot of times college kids wouldn't even go out until 10 o'clock at night.
I think that's still largely the case.
And I would try to get a little start a little earlier, and I'd get out at 8 or 9, and I'd kind of have the place to myself until my friends came in. One thing I will add is that I was a happy drunk, which is a good thing. And I pride myself in my humor. And if you think I think I'm funny, man, I thought I was hilarious.
I think that alcohol takes whoever you are and just amplifies it.
Apparently.
So if you are a jerk and you just kind of hold it back because you don't, you know you're going to get in trouble, when you have alcohol, then it takes off those, but it doesn't ever give you any new thoughts that you wouldn't have had. You don't do anything when you're drunk that you haven't thought sober.
I think that's, for me, that was true. I can't speak for others, but for me,
I think in general, from what I've seen. So if you're generally a good-hearted person, generally, or if you're a mean-spirited person, it's just going to take whatever that is and it's going to amplify it.
well, I think that's not quite right, because when I was drinking, I would make a lot of not very nice jokes at other people's expense. I would make fun of other people that shouldn't be made fun of, and a variety of things like that. It was funny, but it wasn't good.
But I think that is even there. That's, we talked about here on this podcast that before you had an LGBTQ person in your family, you would make gay jokes.
Oh, sure.
And I think it is easy to make fun of people that, when we're not affected
That
by
aren't
them.
like us.
And so I'm sure you found ways to make fun of people that you thought you were being funny.
And the other thing that was problem for me was that the more I drank, the louder I got. And so everybody in the bar or anywhere else I was could hear me. I can remember walking into a hotel room late at night after the bars closed and talking to my friend, and I was so loud that I can remember somebody opening their door. It was like 2:30 in the morning, opening their door, and this guy standing there in his underwear and ready to, I don't know what he was going to do, whether he was going to, but he was smart enough to realize he's not going to argue with a drunk. And I just walked by, and you could tell he wasn't very happy, but I remember laughing about that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but there were a lot of other times too. And I could tell you a lot of stories that when I think back on it, I think, boy, that was really stupid. And I did a lot of really stupid things. I was at the level that if I had a day where I didn't drink, that was very unusual. Usually, Monday was a day to kind of rest up from the weekend. And then Tuesday, you'd kind of go out to see who was there. And then by Wednesday, partying was getting pretty strong already. And Thursday, and by the weekend, blackouts. Lots and lots of blackouts.
You mentioned blackouts earlier. How were you having so many blackouts and you could continue to go on? To talk a little bit about those blackouts.
Well, there isn't a lot to talk about because I don't remember what happened during those times, but people would tell me that.
The entire days. Like there were entire days that you lost then?
Yeah. That didn't happen really often, but nights. Yeah, most nights. I couldn't remember driving home if I did.
Oh.
Back
in the days when there was not a lot of push of saying don't drink and drive.
Right, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Just so many things. I couldn't remember after about 10 o'clock at night or maybe 11 o'clock at night. I couldn't remember what happened for the rest of the night. That was not uncommon for me. It went for a long time. So that was 8 more years I went on partying and doing those kinds of things.
So I would have been born about halfway through that.
Yes.
What was that like for you, not being in college, working a job? What was your drinking like in those 8 years?
Oh, I would go to the bar and find other drunks like me.
So you continued drinking
Sure.
right on through.
Yep.
And did mom come and join you generally, or was it you kind of going out on your own and that was not her thing? Or
A lot of times I went out on my own, but on the weekends she'd come with me and we'd go out and party, but she didn't party like I did. She was pretty normal.
uh-huh.
And she'd usually have to help me get home somehow or other.
She drinks in moderation.
Generally, I'm sure there were times when she wasn't, but I was drunker than her, so I wouldn't know the difference.
Yeah.
But then on October 6, 1979, I went to a JC convention. It used to be called Junior Chamber of Commerce, but it's just called JC's now. And it's a service organization for young people. They had their state convention. I went there. They had a beer bash. And first they had a beer bash on Friday and then the hospitality suites on Saturday. And of course, I abused myself during the whole time. On Sunday morning, they had a brunch. I went to the brunch with Mom, and we sat across from the state president. While I was listening to the state president nursing a hangover, he said to the entire state JC convention that was there that he was going to run for national president. And the JC said, if you're going to run for national president, you're not going to be able to drink anymore for that whole year. We don't want you drinking at all. And he said, boy, I don't know if I want to run for president. But he did. And it just hit me right then that he could stand up in front of a huge convention of JCs and tell them he wasn't going to drink anymore. And I thought, if he can do that, I can do that. And at 20 after 10 in the morning on October 6, 1979, it hit me and I quit. Never had a drink again after that. There were times earlier when people were telling me that I had a drinking problem. You don't really think you have one if you can find somebody who's worse than you are. As long as I wasn't as bad as somebody else, I was okay. 3 different times I've had people take me to AA meetings. And I thought, maybe, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's fine. I get what they're saying, but I don't need it.
It's good for those people.
Yeah, I don't need it. You can't throw money at people who are drunks. You can't sit down and reason with them. You can't convince them. The only person that can get themselves to quit drinking is themselves. That's what it takes. And it was just that it hit me, and in my own head, that was it. Now, prior to that, many, many, many times, in fact, I'm sure it was at least in the hundreds, maybe even the thousands, I don't know, when I said, boy, I'm never going to drink again, nursing a hangover, but the next day.
You were right back to it.
Yeah.
What was the difference between when you said it beforehand as a throwaway comment versus when you actually did it? Why was that time different for you?
Because I made the decision. Otherwise, I was thinking if it was a time after a big bash or something, I would say, I'm not going to drink, knowing that that wasn't what I really meant. It really was basically probably thinking, well, I'm never going to be like that again. It didn't mean I was going to quit drinking. It meant I'm never going to get that drunk again.
That was the moment you saw somebody else who said, I'm going to go the entire year without drinking. And you got a vision. If he can do that, I can do that too. And
yes.
You and I are very similar in this, that you and I we're either all in or we're all out.
That's right.
And you had a vision of what it could look like to be, I could say all out, but I'm going to say to be all in on sobriety. That's what really triggered you, it seems like. You saw somebody that said, I can do this.
That's correct. And I can tell you that moment, that moment at 20 after 10 in the morning, it was immediately, this really sounds trite, but I have to say it because it's the only way I can explain it. It felt like I was driving in a fog for a long time, and suddenly drove out of it, and it was nice. And all of a sudden, I sat back and relaxed, and instead of gripping that steering wheel. And suddenly I realized I just came out of this fog. And it was completely different.
You get healthier because you're not putting so many calories in your body.
True.
And I'm sure you become a lot clearer in your life. Other than the effects that we all know, what are some of the long-term effects that you experience when you quit drinking?
I didn't realize when I quit drinking, I was going to lose almost all of my drinking buddies. I found out very quickly they weren't real friends. I had a lot of real friends, and my real friends would drink, but not like I drank, and not like my drinking buddies drank, where they could drink until they couldn't anymore, like me. And I didn't lose them all instantly, but almost instantly, one at a time. But the one I remember the most was a guy that worked with me. He came to me one day, I think it was about 10 days into my quitting drinking. And he said, "When are you going to stop that stupid stuff?" And right then and there, I realized we weren't going to be friends anymore. I didn't say anything to do about it, but I did. That was one of the things, that level of friend was difficult to be around when they were drinking. I still remained friends with them, but not on the same level of what I would define as my close friends.
Now, normally when we think about losing friendships, that's a really hard thing to go through. How do you feel about losing those friendships?
Didn't bother me at all. Never even thought about it. A couple of those people tried to get me to go with them for something other than that. Nope, I'm not interested. The second thing that surprised me was it didn't take me long to get uncomfortable around alcohol. To this day, now that was October 6, 1979. Here we are in 2024. And to this day, I am still uncomfortable walking in a bar. It just repels me. If I go to a restaurant and there's tables in the bar and tables in the restaurant part, I'll go in there. But if they want to sit at a table in the bar, I won't take it.
Is that just because it brings back too many memories, or?
No, it's not that at all. It's being uncomfortable. It would be like, "Hey, you want to go sit in this drug house?" No, I don't think I want to do that. It'd be kind of like that.
Doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like a pleasant environment.
Exactly. It is a very unpleasant environment for me. Even nice looking bars and all. I just don't want, and I'm sorry I feel that way because I realize it does affect a little bit of my social life. I don't say anything about it, and I don't want to be a wet blanket, but no, I'd rather go. Do you want to go to this restaurant over here? It's Bob's Bar and Grill, or do you want to go to Panda Express? I'll go to Panda Express. I'll choose something else if I get a chance to. But all the other people with me might want to go to someplace, and that's okay. And I do go to situations like you go to weddings where they have alcohol. I don't mind, but I'd rather not. I don't mind. I can be there, and somebody else is having a drink. I don't mind. Doesn't bother me at all. But it's just not something I just would select.
If it gets too ruckus, you're likely to say, this is too much of, this makes me uncomfortable. And
Oh, I sure would.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. When they get to the part where it's not at a restaurant, it's at a drinking place, it doesn't take long to get too much like that. And pretty soon, as the night wears on, you get to the point where I don't want to. No, I wouldn't.
When somebody's drinking, it seems like anything you want to do is going to include alcohol. So when you immediately, in a moment, dropped alcohol, it must have changed your entire schedule. Everything that you would do, everything that you used to do beforehand must have changed.
I think so. Well, for one thing, I got up a lot earlier in the morning. That's a legitimate schedule change. And I go to bed earlier at night.
Mm-hmm.
And that was not unusual for me. Now it's been so long that I haven't been drinking, that I haven't had one drink, that I can't even remember some of the stuff. I tell you one thing interesting that I should have mentioned earlier is that I never liked the taste. I did it for the effect. I never liked the taste. You know, if I was choosing taste, well, I'd rather have a Diet Coke. But I never ordered a Diet Coke.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted the effect.
Nothing at all. Wine?
Oh,
Didn't work for
wine.
you?
I did like wine.
Mm-hmm.
I did like the taste of wine. That's one thing I do miss. I like the Cabernet wine, and I especially like the Beaujolais, which you don't find very often. And I did like that. But I know if I was drinking wine at some point, I'd order another bottle and another bottle.
Oh.
I never could quit. I could remember many times sitting in a bar and it's 10:30. Well, I guess I'll have one more and go home. Well, by the time I quit, it was because the bar closed.
So we opened the podcast where I talked about how you used to joke about, let's drink till we can't see the door. But
Yeah.
for you, that's not so much just a joke.
No.
That's what you would do.
Yeah, I would drink until I couldn't anymore. And then I'd go home and drink some more.
How
Because
would
the
you
bar's
get up
closed.
for work? How would you get up for classes? How
It-
would you?
It
How
was
did you
difficult.
function?
Yeah, I didn't function many times.
Mm.
That was not good.
Mhm.
So, you know, and other people who know me really well didn't really know that I couldn't handle it. They just thought I was a funny drunk, and I was fun to be around.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was a laugh a minute,
Mm-hmm.
but I wasn't as funny as I thought I was.
That's still true. No, but very different. Yeah, for how that was. I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a tough thing for me. Just to look, it's tough to look back, because I wasted a lot of years. Here's something I heard. People will say this. People who don't have a drinking problem will say this to drunks. They'll say, and I knew they were right. They'd say, well, if you have to drink to have fun, you don't know how to have fun. And that's true.
Mm.
Yeah. I have a lot more fun now. A lot more. And good memories.
Alcohol affects relationships in so many different ways.
Family relationships can really be affected. If I come home and I'm terribly drunk and, you know, I just stagger into the bed and fall asleep, the person on the other side's going to know, good, let them sleep, because if they're awake, they could create a lot of problems. Go on all night and just a variety of things. And if it's a regular occurrence, it ends up being somebody you don't want to live with. They're not making good memories together. Since I was 36 years old, I have been making a lot of good memories. Now, I had a lot of great memories before that. I had a lot of great memories when I was in the military. I had a lot of great memories when I was in the band, and I had a lot of great memories when I was at the bar. But those memories were very fleeting. They would, by 11 o'clock at night, I'm on a blackout, or often.
Mm-hmm.
And there were times when I wasn't, but sometimes I would make an exception to the rule that I would never drink until it got dark. And I would drink sometime at the beach in the afternoon because somebody was there and they had beer and I'd have a beer just to prove that I could. And the only way I could do that was to not get another one would say, well, I only have to wait until it gets dark and then I can have another one. Yeah, that's pretty common memory for me.
I think that alcohol is like an emotional credit card. You never come out ahead, but you feel like you're coming out ahead.
Yeah.
There's always interest and it always catches up with you. And just like spending too much money on a credit card and it catches up and, oh, now I can't afford to pay this thing. And you were using it to try to get by when things were tight, but now things are really tight. I think alcohol works like that we think, I'm really doing rough emotionally. I'm going to do some alcohol, or I'm going to drink some alcohol right now to help me get through this. Or maybe we think I'm just, I'm feeling a little uptight, so I'm going to have some alcohol to bring me down a little bit. Now, that's fine as long as you're not putting too much on that credit card that you can't afford and you pay it off right away. But how many of us think, oh, I'll pay that off right away. And then you put a little too much on there and now you can't pay it off. I feel like a lot of people that are drinking on a regular basis are carrying over a perpetual emotional debt. And you're never at full because you're always recovering from the last time. You're recovering for a long time.
I can't say that I ever craved alcohol, but I craved the experience. I didn't crave the alcohol. I didn't like the taste, but I did crave the experience. Whatever you can do, if you can do it without alcohol, I guarantee you will be a better person. The analogy I always used was that every high has a counter low. And to be on the even keel, I tell you, it's a way better way to live. But when you're on a high, it's over the top. And the more over the top it is, and the wilder you get, the tougher your down is. And it can be really tough.
You talk about the things that have those highs, and then with that high comes the corresponding low. But I'll tell you one high that never comes with the corresponding low, and that's when you listen to this podcast. We're grateful to have you coming back here every Monday morning. We've got good, positive stuff for you every single Monday, and we hope that we've been your voice of positivity again today.
And if you like what you hear and you'd like to support us, you can do that by going to transcendent.com, click on support.
Yes, there's a little heart right by it.
As little as $3 a month.
And we'll see you Monday.